Okay.
Mike,
Yeah.
can you give me something? Yeah. Like a rope or something.
Okay. Where's here we are.
We arrived at St Helena on Monday the 28th of March, and we tied up on the mooring ball at 1600 hours. We were stuck in quarantine on the boat until the Thursday when they did the tests, and only on the Friday could we go to shore once we had a negative test to clear customs and immigration. Clearing customs and immigration was very simple and very helpful people. Once we had done that, which took about half an hour with all the boats together, we were then free to roam the island. The capital of St Helena is called, the town is called Jamestown, and the whole island houses just over 5,000 people at this stage.
Beautiful weather.
Nice sun.
Jamestown was founded in 1859, so many of the buildings are really old in the town, with a few more modern buildings that have been added since then. At the entrance to Jamestown, on the right-hand side, you have the famous Jacob's Ladder, which is 699 steps all the way to the top, each step being an average of 11 inches, all the way to the top of the mountain.
But all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays. Way back a year ago, I've changed for the better this time. I thought I would never be fine. I strive just to say I'm alright, and for the first time in a long time I'm alright. I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same.
Jacob's Ladder was originally a tramway where they pulled carts to the top of the hill with a winch, and this was built in 1829, and in 1871 the tramway stopped and they turned it into a stairway.
I'm not falling. I'll push all my chips and call all in. I'll bet on myself, you keep stalling. I hear destiny and it's calling. I'll keep my head up high through the downs and lows, and we're all going life. Still nobody knows, but I'ma choose what's right and take what comes and goes. And ain't no one in life holding me back no more. I've seen a lot of change. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago.
Most cruisers that visit St Helena go to Anne's restaurant, which is just up the hill from the walkway where you enter the island, and all the flags of the boats and parts of the boats are stuck up on the walls and that for remembrance. We certainly were surprised to see a Slovenian flag at Anne's restaurant, but this was not the last one we would see on the island. The gardens around the square, which Anne's restaurant is part of, are really beautiful with lots of greenery and various types of flowers. We were really lucky because our crew, Yaku, had a friend, Yanis, that was a doctor on St Helena Island at the time we were visiting. So he called us up and he came around and took us around the island and spent 2 days for us traveling all over the island, enjoying the island and showing us the sights. Having a car and somebody that knows the island was invaluable for us to be able to get around and see the whole island, and particularly places where the average tourist would not go.
If you want to walk there? Yeah, we can.
Nice, that's it. Okay, yeah, I read all of that stuff sitting on the
St Helena is steeped in history, and one of those historical parts is the fact that Napoleon Bonaparte was exiled here for the rest of his life after the last war against the British, and he was put into two various houses here. This was the first house where he stayed when he arrived on the island. Most of the roads on St Helena are not only steep but also very narrow, with specific passing spots where your car coming down in the opposite direction can pass you. St Helena Island is a complete contrast of stark volcanic rock and very green parts to it that are just amazing to see the differences. St Paul's Cathedral was built in 1850 and is the oldest Anglican church in the southern hemisphere.
Academic, I'm always working, never been apathetic. That energy is like a poison, needs some antiseptic.
There are a number of park benches around the island when one can just sit down and have a rest. I was certainly not aware that there were many of the Boer commanders that were captured from South Africa in the Second Boer War and were taken across to St Helena and put into concentration camps on the island till the end of the war. Many of them died and are buried in St Helena. It was very interesting to see the Orange Province and the Transvaal flags at the burial site at the cemetery. Obviously, this Second World War was a very challenging time in the South African history and a very important part of South African history which changed the direction of the country at that time. This house was the final house that Napoleon lived in until his death on the island, and rumor had it that he had 120 servants looking after him, which stayed in the house behind. You could see it there. And he had a quota of French wine that was delivered to him every month.
He cut it himself. He apparently never opened the shutters. So this is sort of the industrial side. This is where that
We visited the newly built port where the cargo ships come in and offload all the supplies to the island, as well as the fuel gets offloaded here.
Got a taste, can't erase bitterness in my face. Work a job every day till your dreams fade away. Like a card, never change. Play the game that we say. I need a break.
Yeah. You see, Mike? The fort.
Yeah, right up on the hill there. Right up on the corner there is the fort.
You can go there as well.
The cows walking there. It's pretty funny to see the cows walking up these very steep slopes up the sides of the hills to get their food.
Game face on when I chase like that. Yeah, I play so strong with a knife in the back. I'ma swing home run like a baseball bat. Gonna see me rise if you hate on that. I don't play both sides, doing me no cap. I'ma ride or die for my dreams on tap. I'ma fly real high, you ain't see me stack. No, it's not how you fall, it's how you get right back up. This how you get tough. Calluses on my hands so rough, yeah, I call your bluff. I'm not the one, mess with me, come out.
The further up the mountain you get, the more you get the moisture in the air and in the trees, and it's dripping down onto the road up in the forests.
What I want, I'll keep dreaming on. Time staying strong, need to move on. To be what I want, I'll keep dreaming on.
Viewing corridor. Gevaarlijk.
Very stopping. In front of the governor's house is a nice passageway where you can walk down, and you can see Jonathan, which is the 200-year-old tortoise that was brought here from the Seychelles and has been walking around in this garden in front of the governor's house for over 200 years.
Hello. What's his name, George?
Jonathan.
Jonathan, sorry.
Boy John. Johnny. Come.
Moving around. Oh, look at these cucumbers. Or
There's the cucumbers.
cucumbers, or...
There must be some woodpeckers living on this tree at the governor's house from these holes that are in the tree trunks. We went right up to the mountain overlooking the bay where all the yachts are standing, and we could look at Serian and all of our friends' boats as well that were in the anchorage. It's really, really high up here and very picturesque.
You want to get over it?
At the top of this hill, we also have the end point for Jacob's Ladder, the top end of Jacob's Ladder, which we went to view. to decide if we were going to climb it later. As you can see from this sign, it's 699 steps, 180.76 meters high, with a inclination of 41 degrees. Yeah.
Risky places.
The people living on St Helena are extremely friendly, and you will not walk past one without them greeting you and saying good morning.
Telephone boxes. The one is down here. Look how beautiful. Imagine staying in that barn up there, eh? Look at the vegetation. From instantly. Lots and Lot's wife. And in front of Lot's wife there's a, it looks like a gorilla face.
I never answer to no, man, I still go.
We arrived and parked at the top of the road by Sandy Bay, which we came to visit and have a nice fish braai for the day. Jamestown and Sandy Bay are the two only places where you can go on land on St Helena. Only two places where you can get to land. The rest is mountainous and impossible to get a boat to shore.
Black beach. Have you ever seen a black beach
No,
before?
never in my life. No.
But I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go.
Janus bought us some lovely tuna steaks to braai, and he braaied them for us, and we had a lovely meal and relaxed a little bit at Sandy Bay. Years ago, there used to be a blockhouse with cannons to protect this part of the island from being invaded. This is the view from High Knoll Fort, which was built in St Helena in 1799 to protect the island from French invasion.
And if you play that game, then you just might make a change. Rearrange all the bad to okay. Take the worst thoughts saying, turn them to a game. Take the best thoughts saying, put them on display. On repeat in your brain till you're feeling no more pain. Never slow yourself down, you can do some more. Push past all the pain and you'll find a door. Open it up and finally explore everything that you thought you could never do before. And even when you feel low, you can still go.
The views from the fort are pretty spectacular.
No hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go.
St Helena does not allow you to dive in your own boat or off your own boat, so we chose not to do that, but rather to do some snorkeling, and we did some nice snorkeling in really clear, warm water around St Helena. Maya is a 25-degree woman, so anything colder she would not be in the water. So this shows you how nice it was that she's not even with a wetsuit in the water. Usually on a dive you will see one or two butterfly fish, but in St Helena this is a fish that is prolific in the islands and is unique, this species of butterfly fish on St Helena, and there are just literally thousands of them.
Driving at night, wait till this ride, feel feeling alive. Nothing in sight, forever in flight. Follow those lines, we'll make it this time. Blurry street lights, work as a guide to memories that we're making tonight.
I was surprised that with these perfect conditions there was absolutely no coral growing on the island on any of the rocks. There was absolutely no coral, which was surprising for me.
No, those are pocketfish, not needlefish.
After spending time in the water, we're usually hungry, so a good meal and a braai afterwards is always appreciated. Once you have paid for the diesel at the shop at St Helena, they send a small boat out with all the fuel on the boat and pump it into your tanks or wherever you need it.
Hey, we're halfway. What do you think, Lovey? Very tired. Finished as well. Crazy. Long road, Lovey. To go down the ladder.
We had a lovely 5 days on St Helena Island, visiting everything we wanted to see, doing everything we wanted to do. Then the time was up for us to leave for Fernando de Noronha.
St Helena, yeah? Spinnaker is up. That's our speed going wind.
6.3.
Okay, 6.3. Okay. Last look at St Helena, flying spinnaker.
If you liked this video, please click the like button and subscribe to see further episodes.